I wrote down all my
Yeah.
jokes beforehand.
Yeah, you prepared?
I'm drinking a
Okay.
smoothie today instead of coffee, or I drink different things every time.
I think that's for the best, considering what happens when you drink coffee.
Water.
Oh, look
what's
at
that?
those.
What are you drinking? What is that, Pierce?
Are
Those
those
koalas? No, the
little
pandas.
They're like
Guys.
sloths, I think.
sloths?
sloths.
Yeah, they're like little cartoon sloths. Those are super
Is
cute.
that your spirit animal, Pierce? Are you a sloth?
No, but I don't know if you remember this. Actually, I don't even know if you were there. You probably weren't there, but it used to be one of my nicknames in high school.
Why do I feel like I do remember that?
Maybe you were there.
But I don't. It's like a hint of I don't know. Well, we'll get into all that, I guess.
Okay,
But
save
Maybe.
it for the podcast.
yeah, save it for the podcast.
Welcome back to Adulthood Friends. This is the discussion-based podcast where two former childhood acquaintances, now friends, discuss the things that truly matter. I'm Maya,
I'm Josh.
and we have a very special episode for you today with our first guest on the show, Mr. Pierce Zaifman, another childhood acquaintance of sorts.
Well, we'll get into all those.
We'll get into that. And our topic for the day, nice and light, mortality.
Mortality.
And let's get into it. And we're back. Hey, Pierce, thanks for coming on the podcast.
You're welcome. I'm happy to talk.
Yeah, it's good to see you again. I actually haven't seen you in a long time. I think we've run into each other maybe a little bit, but I probably haven't spoken to you since elementary school, maybe high school a little bit. But again, it's kind of similar to Josh in that we went to the same elementary school, the same high school, but haven't really spoken too much since
Yeah, I
then.
don't
Yeah.
know.
Wait. So it's really been that long? You guys haven't spoken since high school?
Well, what I was going to say is that I don't think we've had a conversation, what I would call a real conversation, like ever. Like
Yeah.
I saw her a couple of years ago, but
Oh.
and
Yeah.
you know, in elementary school and
So
whatever.
you
but
passed by each other in
Yeah,
the hall
I
somewhere.
I would actually agree. Yeah, I don't think we've ever had a real thorough conversation. We had kind of a small chat conversation at it was some Jewish events maybe 2 years ago now.
at the bar.
Yeah,
So we're,
yeah.
we're about to have a real thorough conversation.
So we're gonna
I
get
think we
into.
could call it that.
Well, I've heard secondhand that you have real conversations with Josh. So I just
So they
I hear
say.
about these conversations. I'm like, I don't have these conversations, but now I get to have one. So that's why we brought you on.
Yeah.
So I get to.
Welcome, Pierce. This is so cool that we're. I mean, our topics can be, I guess, pretty heavy, but it's really
Yeah.
cool to do this with you.
I'm used to it now. Maybe I'm remembering this wrong, but I swear that when I was done high school, like I didn't even know that I went to the same high school.
I actually wasn't sure for a bit either. I don't think we ever had a class together or anything.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think
You
maybe
did go to
Wow.
Lucas.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
we did
yeah,
go
no.
to the same.
Pierce and I ate lunch. We'll get to this, but we ate lunch together like every day.
Yeah, and
Oh.
I don't know how many of like there were 11 or 12 of us in our class in elementary school,
Mhm.
and I don't know how many of us went to the same high school, but
Almost all of us did, except for
Okay.
two, I think.
I think it was
I
just
didn't-
Pierce,
only
or sorry, just Will and Michael who went
Will and
to
Michael
Central.
did so, yeah.
Yeah.
They went to Central. So
I feel
Almost-
like I knew that like 3 or 4 of us were there, and like the rest didn't exist. Like I never had class with anyone
oh man.
really that I knew.
So this is interesting. So like going back in time here, then we know you, just like Aya and I have known each other since we were like 3. Same with you. You were in that class. You were also in the same preschool with us, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and Gani it was called.
I don't remember
Yeah.
anything, but
I mean, it was preschool. So I have like
Anything
little
at all?
flashes, but is that all out of your memory? You don't have a single memory from preschool?
I don't think so. I kind of remember the room. If you ask me to just like recall the memory, I have nothing. But if you like sort of cue me on something, I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of remember that. And I have seen some home videos of that since then. So like
Oh,
I
yeah.
do kind of
So it does
remember.
come. So it's there. It's in your brain.
It's there
just
somewhere.
Not, yeah, something has to trigger you into remembering.
Let's
it.
try digging
Well,
it out.
Well, preschool. I mean, come on, it's preschool. We can hardly speak, let alone remember what we.
Yeah.
But looking at after preschool, then we were in the same little Jewish day school. We all were in that same class together. There was about, I mean, it changed a little bit in some of the years, but in general, it was like 6 guys, 6 girls. That's what it kind of settled into. And then, yeah, back then, I guess I just had a first question for you, Pierce, because Aya and I talked about this in our very first episode. But how did you perceive us back then? Looking back, like, what was your thought about me, and what were your thoughts about Aya?
I think, I don't know if this is true and I'm just like projecting backwards, but I feel like when I was, I don't know, maybe up until like near the end of elementary school, I didn't think anything. I was just like, oh, there are people there, whatever. Like, I feel like I had I wasn't like, oh, that person's really great, or I really don't like that person. It was just like, oh,
You didn't have any thought at all.
I think I just was kind of ambivalent.
That makes
You're
sense.
just kind of you're just kind of floating through.
I can picture that, like, based on I mean,
That's how you remember him.
So how I remember you is being very ambivalent, like being just like, I'm here, what do you want from me? Like, everybody's asking for my opinions, but I felt like you were just waiting to get home. You were like, I'm here right now, I'm in my Northern Getaway sweatshirt, and I just want to get home
I don't even
and play video games. You don't remember the Northern Getaway stuff? Yeah, I mean, we all kind of shop there, right? But it always had like animals on it. That was one of your like favorite.
Yeah. I don't have much, but I do remember, like, I feel like less from Aya, but more from, like, I remember like being annoyed with Josh sometimes. I don't know if you remember this, Josh. Actually, I'm sure you remember. I feel like you've brought it up a lot of times. Where I hit you once.
Did you hit me? Oh my God, you did hit me.
Okay,
yeah, actually I forgot this till just now, and it was like a big thing, I think, because you never did anything like this.
You were like you were the kid who never got in trouble, like for good reason, because you never did anything bad to anyone.
I don't know how.
What did you do, Josh?
What did you explain? Tell me what happened here. I don't actually remember the details.
Like, I don't remember very much, but like this stuck. I remember this very well. So we had our gym class, and it was winter, and I don't know how old we were.
Oh, did I put snow?
Okay, you do remember.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I might have told. Yeah.
Anyway, the rest of us in here.
So we had our gym class, and we had a park across from the school, and it was winter, so we went across the park for the gym class, and I don't know what we did. We played some sport or something, and then it was time to go back. So we're all like walking back, and for some reason, I don't know, it was probably like a prank or something. Josh was putting snow in my boot. Like, as I was walking, he kept like putting it in behind like where the heel was. And he just kept doing it, and I just turned around and like hit him in the stomach.
You did. He punched me in the stomach, and it knocked the wind out of me. But I have to say something. This always crushed me, Pierce, because I didn't put the snow in your boot. I put the snow. I was like putting it on your back, and it slid like into your boot. I remember this. I remember I wasn't actually putting it in your boot, but you thought I was putting it directly in your boot.
I don't know if that's better, but.
Yeah, I was just
I didn't. No, it's better because I wasn't intending to put snow in his boot.
What were you doing though? Why were you?
I don't know why. To put snow somewhere else.
I don't know why I was putting snow on his. It wasn't down his back either. It was like just on his. I don't know why. I don't know if I was like throwing snow at his back or something. I don't know. We were kids. We were playing around.
Like, what age was?
Do you remember, Josh?
I don't remember. I
feel
it must have been later,
like 10
a little
or
bit.
11 or something.
Oh, you must have
maybe grade 6. It must have been like grade 6 or something, right?
Like
10 or
11, I do remember that was the
4.
first time anybody had ever punched me in the stomach.
Oh.
It was you, and
That's
knocked
so
the wind.
Unexpected.
It did, and it actually crushed me because I was like, no, Pierce.
I feel like that's because Pierce doesn't. I didn't see you, Pierce, as getting angry easily. So I feel like you weren't known for being violent in any way. So like you hitting him, that's gotta hurt more, huh, Josh? No, I'm just kidding.
It hurt on many levels. Yeah, no, I could be pretty annoying.
It's like if you could piss Pierce off, you're like really you're pushing the bounds.
I told you, like, some of the kids in the class, as we know, I guess, they didn't always treat me very well. But Pierce was not one of those people. Yeah. Pierce, you were. I mean, you just kind of kept to yourself. Yeah. So the fact that I upset you, I remember it was like, oh no, like,
well,
I felt terrible.
Maybe everybody's like this, but things that bother me repeatedly, that like pushes me, it gets me really angry. Now I'm not like, I can control myself a little bit, but back then it was like, oh, he did that thing that was annoying. Okay, I'll just like shrug it off, and then he does it again. I'm like, it's building, and then
and then I'll punch him in the stomach.
Just lose control.
It's weirdly one of the most violent things that happened to me at school. It came from you.
No, no. Well,
You didn't even remember until 2 minutes ago, Josh. Don't make him feel
I
bad
didn't.
now.
I did. I actually had put this
Oh.
out of my head. It was gone.
You'd suppress
li-
this?
I didn't think
Trauma.
there was any like real like physical stuff that happened at school. But now looking back, I'm like, oh, this happened. Maybe there's other stuff. I don't know.
I remember other stuff, not like intentional things, but other injuries. Like it was like a game where you throw a ball against the wall. I think you like had to touch the wall or something. Anyway, because it's the LCHDS and we don't have like normal dodgeballs, we have like basketballs.
I know we
like
were using
whipping
basketballs.
down. And I'm
I
pretty
know,
sure
I
it was
got you.
Josh got like hit in the face, like
Oh, I
like
did.
really, really
I
close
got
to
hit
the
in the
wall.
face.
And I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God. And we weren't like that young. Like we could throw it pretty hard. But also I was gonna say, I remember like going to the principal's office and like I was like, maybe every kid does this, but you try and like rationalize. You're like, well, he was annoying me, so like he should get punished too. Like it's not fair.
Yeah.
Did you get punished for it?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Well,
All
we
I
went to
remember
the
is being in the
principal's
principal.
office?
I did. I don't know if you did. I don't remember if anything
Oh,
happened.
that's not. I feel
that's
bad.
where my memory
like
ends.
today, I feel bad about you having gone to the principal's office because I was annoying. I mean, you probably should have punched me in the stomach, but still.
I mean, what would they do otherwise? Like they just be like, "Oh, you hit him? Okay, whatever." Like,
Yeah, they
oh, I
can't be
can't
like,
do
we
that.
don't care. He probably deserved it. Like, what are they gonna do?
The teachers were like, Josh is pretty annoying, you know.
Let me hit him too.
Yeah, look, they're like, if Pierce did this, it had to have been justified, right?
Yeah, maybe they brought you there, Pierce, and they're like, listen, we know Josh was pretty annoying, but we have to bring you here to at least
just a show.
show that at least show that we're doing something about it, okay? But you're not in trouble. Here's a smoothie. I don't know. Let's see what.
So moving on from elementary school, you and I in high school, we hung out like every day, right? We ate lunch every single day.
Yeah.
Which is just like from my perspective, I was like, okay, we had become closer as friends in a sense, but also correct me if I'm wrong. Tell me if you didn't see it this way. I felt like our friendship was kind of like a surface level friendship. So we were friends, but we were friends because we played video games together, right? We played a lot of Warcraft 3. We played some StarCraft before that. We ate lunch and we just kind of sat and ate together, but we didn't really we didn't go into like deep issues and stuff and
I mean,
and go beyond a certain level.
I know what you mean, but for me back then, that was like the extent of friendship. So like, that was like, we're like really good friends. Like we hang out together. So like, that's it.
Okay, so we're probably going to get into why. Okay, so it's very interesting because I think that there are certain things that probably trigger different people to get to that kind of next level of awareness or whatever you want to call it. That maybe for me happened a little earlier than for you. So I started to see it this way as, oh, there's a deeper version of this, and that's not happening. And for you, this was as deep as it got.
Yeah, I mean, I remember you going like, hey, like maybe we should go like hang out with these other people or something. I was like, no, I'm just gonna like stay here. It's fine. Like I just didn't want to like do anything really. I was just happy to like have my spot and then like go home at the end of the day.
Were you perfectly content?
Yeah. Well, it's
Was
also
high school
probably
a great experience for you?
Yeah, and I was also probably scared of like, well, I was definitely scared of all those social interactions. Like, oh, he wants to go eat with like everybody else. Like, oh, I'm not going to do that. That's too much.
Right, you're pretty introverted in that way. But you know what's interesting, Pierce, is that so I did eat with you. Sorry, I said like every day, but I did kind of move around a little bit. I had different groups that I would eat with at different times. And so that's kind of why I think I asked you that. I would be like, hey, come eat with this other group that I hang out with. And you're like,
Yeah.
nah. Who did you eat with in high? Like, what did you do?
I had my own.
It's not like we hung out.
I mean, initially, like I think when we all got to high school, I didn't know really anybody outside of our own school. So like the two people, I initially started eating lunch with Ali Marcus, and at one point her cousin Kira, and then I made friends with some people in my class, and then I had a group of friends that I just hung out with until the end of high school, like kind of the artsy sort of group. We hung out. We were the stairwell lunch eaters.
Wait, everybody, because I hung out
We
with.
kind of were too.
You were too?
We also
Well,
hung
which
out.
stairwell?
No, but
We had a
we ate on the
specific
bench
stairwell.
upstairs. We were the upstairs.
Yeah.
We ate on the bench upstairs.
Oh, so we were nearby.
But I did join sometimes. I came by the stairwell, but I don't remember you being this. I think a
think
lot of
maybe,
people thought they were the stairwell kids.
I guess there were
There was
different stairwell kids.
There was more
Yeah,
than one stairwell.
we were the ones that if you went down, you were in like that in the gym and art hallways. That was only like in the last year. I think we kind of moved around a little bit. And if it was nice out, we ate outside. It's not that interesting. Nobody cares what we ate.
Did anybody here ever
I think
eat
we
in the
did eat lunch
cafeteria?
near you guys. What?
Did anybody here ever eat in the actual cafeteria?
No, so we started in the cafeteria and then we were like, this is loud and all these people suck. So
That's right.
it's not true, but,
All these
yeah.
people suck.
Well, this
Too
is
many
what
people.
I feel like you asked me to, Josh. And I was like,
Josh.
no, this is like,
Yeah.
I was like, I can't, this is too much for me. And
I
you're
like
well,
people. I've always wanted to bring people together and do stuff.
I know you're leading into something, but can I say one more thing about elementary school that I remember from you guys? Okay, remember how Josh used to have a lot of questions? And do you remember, Pierce, it started being your thing that you'd be like, I have two questions.
I remember that, yeah.
Yes.
Now that you say
Okay. All right.
Wait,
I think it was even like I may put it in like the yearbook or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, probably. It was a thing. It was like at least for grade 7, 8 in Mr. Gendron's class, because he always hated being interrupted. And Josh would always be like, and he'd be like, Josh, wait.
Oh my God. There's a reason I don't remember all of these years because I blocked
I
this
wish
out of my.
the look on Josh's face was, oh my God. I'm sorry. No, so Josh was he had a lot of questions during the
Had a lot of
talk,
energy.
and then a lot of energy. And then Pierce, you had
Yeah.
it was kind of your bit. One of your bits was,
Yeah,
I
I
have
forgot
two
about that.
questions, and then we'd all
Pierce was
laugh.
like the opposite. Like I had all this
Yeah.
energy, and Pierce did not. Pierce is not
It's
like
a
you
very
had no energy,
calming-
but you did not expend it. You were very conservative with your energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to move past a little bit just to
Sure.
explain that in university, I don't recall that we hung out all that much, but we did go, all of us, to the same university.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
we
if
did bump
you
into each other.
thought that like in high school I didn't realize people were there, then in university it's like there's no way. Like even if you're in the same program maybe, but other than that, you're probably never going to see people that you know.
Yeah.
Even
I
if
mean,
you're
I
at
hung
the
out
same
with
university.
I hung out with you. I would say in high school. This is yeah. So I hung out with you in high school daily, almost, right? And then I started to hang out with more after high school because we started to work at the library together. And when I say hang out, we didn't hang out, but we
worked at the
Oh, so we
library
started
in
in
high
high
school.
school.
Yeah,
wait, we did,
most
but
of it was
later
during
on-
high school.
Okay, but
that's
later
fine.
on we started
really
to.
matter.
Am I wrong about this? We started to drive each other more. I don't know.
Maybe we
I
can
feel like
say
I saw
that
you
for
more
now.
after high school.
I don't really remember you after high school. I knew you were around, but
Okay, so we all
okay,
basically
it's not
split
about
off
me right
after high school.
yeah. I'd
No,
say
that's the
split
point. We
off.
all didn't we were all kind of separate. We had separate either friend groups or actually what were you doing after high school, Pierce? What did you do?
I mean, I just didn't care. Like, well, first of all, like there's a few things going on. Aside from me, like being sort of scared to make friends and do all that socializing, I used to play World of Warcraft, which was a
No.
MMO RPG game that was like very well known to like
Suck
suck
up all
people's
your
lives
time.
away. Yeah. And like I had like friends that I made on that, and I would talk to them like every day, come home, be like, all right, it's time to play. Like, let's go like chat with my buddies. And then later in high school, I was like, oh, my grades are like really bad now. I can't just like earlier in high school, I kind of knew enough to like coast through. And then later on, I was like, oh, I can't do this anymore. Maybe I should stop like spending all my time playing this game and like do some work. And then I was like, well, really have anything else to do now. So I guess I'll just like watch TV or something with my free time. So then after high school, it was like, well, I'll just keep doing that, I guess.
What did you end up
Okay.
doing in university? Computer science, right? Something.
Yeah.
Is that what you continued basically doing, right?
Yeah, I've been programming as my job since I graduated, basically.
Okay, cool. So I guess moving back a little bit. So one of the things I think actually I wanted to go back to all the way to elementary school, just another way we were talking about how we perceived each other, right? I remember thinking, we had this like kind of, I guess it was kind of a joke, right? It was about you and Ben Farhi. There's another guy in our
Yeah,
class.
I probably know where
And-
you're going with this, but
Yeah. The idea was that like Pierce's dad owns half the city and Ben's dad owns the other half. Because like you guys were like a huge, not just a presence in like the Jewish community, you guys were a presence in the city. Your family was very successful. And looking back, like that's kind of the thing. People talk about you and your family was you guys were kind of giants in the community, right?
Yeah.
And just looking back on that, yeah, I just was wondering, like, were you aware of that perception of you?
Yeah, I loved it. In elementary school, I loved it at least. I was like, I remember somebody being like trying to make fun of me, and they're like, "Oh, I forget what they said, but they're like, "Oh, you've got all this stuff," and I was like, "Yeah, it's great. Like, it's not an insult. Like, what do you mean?"
Because I remember going to because I went to your house a bunch of times growing up, and your house to me was huge. It was amazing. Even not long ago, I remember going to that house and still thinking, wow, when you step into like your first big house, I think as you're growing up, it's like amazing. And your house was that to me. It like changed my life. I was like, wow.
How did it change your life?
I remember you could get lost in your house. That's how big I thought.
I don't think I remember that house. Maybe I was there for like one birthday party, but otherwise, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it was. I just remember your house being absolutely incredible, and your family being these. Yeah, I don't know. Like in our community, there were just these high up beings that were just to come near you guys. Sometimes was very
like a celebrity.
Felt like a big. Yeah.
You're our local
in our hometown. Like we knew you, but then it's like, guys, Pierce come, his family, right?
There's more of them.
There's more of them. But yeah, I guess so. To get to our topic of the day is mortality, right? So one of the things I guess we're going to be talking about is how mortality, or acknowledging mortality, or being introduced to that idea, changes us, and maybe brings on a certain level of self-awareness and growth, or even other things. And I just remember you and I at Pierce have had some amazing, just really deep conversations in the last few years.
Yeah.
Would you say? Which is interesting to say. Again, really deep conversations compared to like high school, where things were not so deep, you might say. And I just remember, I was talking about where that came from. And I know for me, when I was 16, I brought this up on the podcast before, but my mother passed away when I was 16. And that really, I think, introduced me to, my own mortality and the idea of mortality. And I think that really changed me. And even Aya, you were saying, just even hearing about that makes you, think of things differently. If you hear about a friend or someone if their parent dies, you start to think about death more. And I know for me personally, it started making me think about my own purpose and what I'm going to accomplish within my own life, and what matters to me, and all these priorities, what really matters in the time that we have. And I know that for me, again, that happened when I was 16. So I was thinking about this stuff maybe a lot earlier than some people, maybe later than others, So for you though, Pierce, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, was that this kind of sense of, looking at these deeper things and the self-awareness and all that stuff came for you a lot later than other people. And some people, just to point out, I feel like they don't ever get that self-awareness. There's people who go through their whole lives, and I feel like there's just
must be nice.
I guess you could say maybe ignorance is bliss sort of a thing, but it's very surface level, everything they like. Or you and I, our friendship used to be built on just playing video games together and sitting and eating together, right? Nowadays, I would say our friendship is built on a lot more. In fact, I believe we've gotten so much closer. Like you painted me a picture of an interaction for my birthday, which is one of the most meaningful gifts I've received in a long time, right? And that to me just seems like a totally different Pierce than I knew when I was in high school, or little or elementary school, but high school. What do you? I guess I want to ask you, if you're comfortable talking about it. What do you feel brought about that change, and how did that happen? And
I mean, I could go straight to that. I was gonna say about your mom in high school, because I remember you.
Yeah, you were present for this. Yeah, because we hung out.
Yeah, I remember you. I don't know the timeline. Like, it must have been after the funeral, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. But you like told me what happened. You're like, I don't remember the details, but you're like, I was in this room. I heard whatever, and then I called. I had to. Maybe it was you that had to call the ambulance. I can't remember.
Yeah, it was.
It was. Oh.
Yep.
And you told me this whole story. And I'm just like, oh, all right, that's like
That's
I didn't
uncomfortable.
I like didn't really. I was like, can we like talk about something else, please? I didn't say that, but like I was thinking that. I was like, let's just like shift the conversation and never talk about this again. Uh, so that was like how I felt back then. Mostly
It's
like
interesting
try
because
to.
you and I were friends, so I remember feeling comfortable telling you this. But obviously it's an uncomfortable thing to hear, and you know, this is it's interesting. I remember, I guess it was a few years. I don't remember exactly now. A couple years back, you sent me a message apologizing to me. Do you remember this? Saying
Yeah, I don't think it
you
was
you
that long
felt
ago.
well, maybe it wasn't that long. I don't know exactly. It wasn't that long ago. You sent me a message apologizing, saying that you wished you had been more understanding or something when you had heard, or that you didn't. I don't know if you remember the details of it exactly, but I remember thinking that's so sweet. But also, I don't remember you not being understanding. I thought you were great. You were just there, and that was what really mattered to me at the time.
Yeah, I just thought like I think what I said to you was like I didn't really know what to do, and I think you said like, well, that's not your fault or something like that.
Yeah. Oh,
Not
it's not. And
really.
again, who doesn't know what to do? I feel like
Yeah,
it's
even as
just as
adults,
awkward for
we
everybody
still
else.
don't know what to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So then going back, I guess I feel like I want to be careful with my wording about a lot of these things because we're touching on sensitive subject matter. I don't mind talking about these sensitive things of my own. You can say whatever, but when we're talking to other people, it can be very these things can be sensitive and triggering. So thank you for being here and talking about this stuff. But yeah, I was wondering what your story was there.
Yeah, so I was sort of like coasting along in my life before that. Like
Mm-hmm.
I had a job and I was like working at my job and just kind of content to do my job and that's about it. And I always had this feeling like, and I didn't live at home. I lived in Calgary, like a different city at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I always had this thought like, yeah, I'm here now, but like someday I'll just go home and like it'll just like go back to I don't know, like this life. Like it'll always be there for me. So eventually I left my job in Calgary and came back and I was like, oh, this is great. Like I'm back. Like my parents are here, like everybody's here. It's so great. And then I didn't have a job for a while and I was just kind of living at home. Like I did a bunch of different stuff, but I was still kind of just like not really thinking too much about the future.
Mm-hmm.
So well, this whole time my dad had Parkinson's disease for like 13 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it always does this, but for him at least, and maybe for everyone who has Parkinson's, it turns into dementia eventually. And then you just kind of slowly lose like your capabilities. Like you just can't really communicate very well, and you just kind of lose your mind, I guess.
Yeah.
So like when I came home to like move back, he had like full-time help just to like get around and stuff like that. But it didn't really bother me. I was just like, whatever, like he's there. It's fine. He's taken care of. Someday maybe he'll be in a home. Like whatever. I don't really care. Or that's what I was thinking to myself at least. I've got my, I'm doing my thing over here. So then like I don't know, like a year after I had moved back, I don't know, like occasionally he got like sick or something and he like wasn't eating so well, then he'd get better and like he'd be eating again. But later I forget how they described it. Basically he wasn't eating, like he didn't want to eat or like
Yeah.
drink or anything really. And one of the caregiver people, I never talked to them. It was my mom talking to them. They told her like, yeah, he's not like this isn't like he's not sick or anything. Like he's kind of just like he's dying. Like you kind of have to basically either like hook him up to a machine to like force him to live, which would be kind of like I don't know, to us seemed kind of pointless, or you just kind of let him die slowly. So we talked to a what's the word?
Like a palliative care.
Yeah, palliative doctor or whatever. And so he came and explained it to us, and he's like, yeah, like this is what's gonna happen. He's like, I don't know the exact date or anything, but like, it'll be a few weeks probably. And like, you should say goodbye and you should like tell whoever needs to know. And he gave us, well, I didn't really look at this stuff, but he gave the caregivers like I don't know if they were painkillers or what, but there were certain things that was like, it wasn't to like keep him alive, but it was like, if you let him just kind of naturally go, there were things you could do to like ease him. I think actually a lot of it was for the people living with him. Like, I think there were like, let's say it was like heavy breathing or something, or like rough breathing. And there were like things you could give him to like soothe that. It probably didn't change much for him, but for the people who were there, it like made it less uncomfortable, I think. So we had like my aunts and uncles came to visit and like to just like sit with him for a bit, like because they knew he was gonna go in some weeks. And I was just like uncomfortable, I guess. It wasn't like that bad yet. It was sort of, you're just like waiting. You're like, well, he's gonna die like at some point. I'm just kind of waiting around. So I remember we had a caregiver and I was working. Like at this point, I was working from home and I was just working, whatever. And well, I should say also every day I would get up and be like, is he alive? Like, okay, he's alive. Okay, I can kind of go on with my day now. So anyway, it was sometime in the afternoon and the caregiver like came up to me and he's like, you should come. And I was like, oh, all right. Like he didn't say like he had passed or anything, but I was like, I'm sure that's what this is. So I just felt like really uncomfortable and was like, okay, like let's go. So I like came to the room where he was and they're like, oh, he passed. Like we were just watching TV and my mom was with him. And then like stuff happened like really fast. They're like, okay, we gotta get the funeral home or whatever. I don't actually know. Whoever was doing this, you had to contact them and be like, okay, they're gonna come, they're gonna take him and like get him prepared for the funeral. And then they just like come with like this gurney thing and kind of like wrap him up and just like wheel him out the door. And I was just like, this is weird. Like, I don't like, I never cried or anything. Like, that's just not, I just don't do that generally. I didn't think there was something wrong with me, but I just thought, like, wow, somebody else would just be like breaking down, I feel like, and I'm just like not able to do that. So I was just like, well, I guess we're going to do this funeral thing now. So things just kind of like kept moving along, like there was a natural path. Like first it was like he's gonna pass away in a few weeks, so you're like, okay, we'll wait for that. And then you're like, okay, well now there's gonna be this funeral, and you're like, oh, okay, well that'll be the next thing. And then you're like, okay, now we have this Jewish thing called Shiva, where you like hang around for 7 days.
It should be noted too that the Jewish like funeral stuff for Jews happens really, really fast, right? I remember even with my mother, like it's like the next it's
Yeah,
been like a couple days you're burying
Yeah,
them.
they want to bury them like as fast as
Look, we don't
possible.
do
Basically,
embalming or anything.
do well, whatever.
We like Jews don't do embalming, right?
I know, but does anyone do that?
yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
Anyways, yeah.
there's probably lots of things people do, but
Yeah. There's a lot of things people do.
so like basically the people like compared it to me to other traditions of maybe other religions or people where they would like have the funeral and then like the next day go back to work and be like, okay, life moves on. And they're like, with us, like it's this week and it's this like, very intense thing, and it's more like you have more
The
time to
Shiva you're
process
talking
things.
about, right?
Yeah, the Shiva. So I was like, okay, like I'll have this thing and then I'll something's gonna happen here. And like I don't remember when it started, but like maybe after the funeral, sometime during the Shiva. I don't remember when. I was just like, oh, I don't feel good. Like I am like worried about all these things. Like, what if these other people die? Like, what happens when you die? All these things. And like, I couldn't really, I wouldn't say I couldn't eat, but like, I just felt nauseous all the time and I couldn't sleep well. And I was like, I'm going to die. Like, I can't sleep. I can't eat. Like, what?
It all just kind of hit you at once there.
Yeah. So then I had like I talked to the doctor and I was like, give me the drugs. Like, I need this. And they're like, well, we can only give you, it's this stuff called lorazepam, which is like anti-anxiety. Like
Yeah.
it just kind of relaxes you. But it only lasts for like a few hours. So it was basically, they gave it to me to be like, okay, you can use this to like help you fall asleep at night, but we're only giving you like, I don't know, like 10 tablets or something like that. So like once this runs out, like we're not going to give you any more. So like try not to like be dependent on this. I was like, okay, whatever. Okay, at least I can like sleep now, I guess. So most of my days were like just kind of getting through the day and then like, okay, well now I can take my pill and relax and go to sleep. And I also took work off because I wasn't going to work during that week.
Hmm.
And my boss was very nice about it. Anyway, there was a lot of stuff going on that week because there were all these people there, that, like family and friends and stuff. And most of the stuff I like didn't even know like how to process. But there was one thing that was like immediately bothering me, which was like, hey, but like, what happens when you die? Like, what's going on? Like, what did the Jews believe?
Was that new? That was a new thought for like you hadn't thought really seriously about it before.
That was my question too. Like that's the first
Yeah.
time that really hit you, right?
No, it hit me once before when I was like 18, but then I kind of like came to like a not a conclusion, but to some point where I felt satisfied, like, and I didn't need to think about it anymore. But then this came up and I was like, well, now I need to know, like, because this is like happening now. I was like, I gotta like, I need like some answers. Like, what do what do you guys believe? And like I started asking people there who were like at our house for this week or for the meals or whatever. And a lot of them were like, oh, like I don't believe in God. And I was like, what? I was like trying
You're
to
like,
get
this
an
is not
answer
what I
from
want to
you.
hear right now.
Yeah. I was like,
This
that's
is not
not it.
helpful.
I was like, that's not an answer. And then a lot of other people who were like, like let's say more religious, and they were like, well, we don't really know. Like, I don't know. And I was like, what? How do you guys all like? You're like spending all this time praying and stuff, and you like just don't know anything. Like, what? What's going
What
on
have you
here?
been getting out of this praying this whole time? You're wasting your lives. You don't even know if it's good for anything. That's good.
Yeah. So I asked all these people, and I was like, nobody like they don't seem like very sure of themselves about anything.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I'll talk to the rabbis. Like they must know. So I talked to them. I don't remember exactly what they said. Like they gave me some ideas, but they like really weren't like, well, here's the answer. Like one of them I talked to who wasn't even like a local guy, he was my mom's rabbi from Ottawa. I talked to him on the phone for like I don't know, like 2 minutes, and he gave me like the most practical, I guess, or like useful answer where I was like, okay, that kind of makes some sense. And then I talked to one of the other rabbis here, and they told me that I guess it's like I don't know if it's a Chabad thing, where Chabad is like a sect of Judaism,
Mhm.
where it's this idea that like you have some work to do in your life, like there's something you're supposed to do, but you don't know what it is. And if you die and you weren't done, then you come back. Like I guess you reincarnate as another person
There's
or
a bit of
something.
a
Oh, really?
reincarnation.
I didn't
Yeah.
know
That's
that.
there is a little bit of that in Judaism. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
didn't
I
know
was-
that. That's
I was-
cool. I want some unfinished business.
Like basically, if you don't fulfill all these mitzvot, right, or that you're supposed to,
Oh,
these deeds, you know, in your life,
okay.
then you have to come back in some other form and finish them.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, that's interesting, I guess. But the other thing is, or I think everyone I talked to was like, they would talk to me about it, but they were also like, you should see someone, like you should talk to a therapist or something. And I was like, okay, but I wanted this
You're like,
answer
that's
from
not
you.
helpful. Okay, can you just give me an answer, guys? To
Like,
be
you
fair,
should
though,
go to
anyone,
someone to get answers.
yeah. To be fair, anyone who gives you a really like direct, certain answer about the afterlife is not someone to be trusted. Generally, in my humble opinion,
Yeah.
Unless
right? Like
that's exactly what you're looking for.
sometimes that's what you want. I mean, but is it
Well,
helpful? Even if it's what you think you want, would
if-
that have actually been helpful?
I mean, the thing is whether you could believe it or not. Like, if
Yeah.
they tell you like, oh, don't worry, like everything's fine, and you're like, well, I don't believe you, then like it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know if that's what started this, but I basically just started talking to a lot of different people after that, and I was like, can I just like talk to you for a while, like about stuff? So I talked to a bunch of different people about a lot of this stuff, but other things like this, and I talked to like a good friend who's like very like devout Christian. I don't know what sect, but I remember talking to him, and like I was like, I'm struggling with all these things. Like what is it for you? Like, what do you believe? And he kind of told me that it was like, I don't know if I'm describing this right, but the way he said it to me, it sounded more like, this is what I hope it is. I don't really know. And I don't think they felt like absolutely certain, like, I'm going to go to heaven and like, it's going to be great. It was like, I hope that's what happens, but like, I'm not really sure. I think that's actually what a lot of people are like. They're like, well, that would be nice, but I can't feel like certain about it because it's not like in front of me. I can't see it.
And was that uncertainty just driving you kind of up the wall?
Yeah, for a while. But also like I was depressed for like I don't know, like months after that. Like since he died, since my dad died.
Is that new for you? Was that like, had you been depressed before that?
No, I think I thought I had been, and then I was like, "Oh, this is like way worse. Like, this is depression." And I didn't get like a nobody like diagnosed me. I just was like, "This must be it. Like, it must be like this." Yeah, for me at least, it probably depends on the person, but for me, it was like I never really felt like eating. Like, I just felt kind of nauseous all the time. I got better at sleeping, so that was okay. But the eating, like, I just wouldn't eat much because I just really like it felt like sickening to eat, kind of. But I
Hmm.
was like, I have to eat. Like, I don't want to die. Like, I need to eat. Uh, so I would like, force myself to eat at least something. So it just kind of sucks. Like I was just depressed like all day and like get up and be like, oh, I guess I'll like. I like started watching baseball because it was just like boring and it would relax me. And I was like, this is like 3 hours long, so I can just sit here and feel kind of like at ease for a few hours, even though I'm not really interested in watching this. So I did like all kinds of stuff like that. Talked to a lot of different people.
I remember, is that when we started talking?
Maybe.
I remember,
I'm sure I could go back and find like the date of messages and stuff.
I just remember there was a time somewhat after that. That's when I remember getting, I guess, a call or some text from you. And I think that's when you, around the time you might have sent that message about saying, you know, you're sorry that you felt like you weren't as understanding or aware of it, you know, what happened with my mother.
Yeah. But yeah,
Yeah, well,
it might
I
have
guess
been
the
around that
timing
time.
doesn't, yeah, the exact time doesn't matter that much. I just remember somewhat after that, you and I started, I just remember we started talking about some of this stuff. And I just remember thinking, wow, this is deep. This is nice to meet you, Pierce. I'm Josh.
Yeah.
Like, what it kind of felt like.
Yeah. So I don't remember how this happened. But someday I just like wasn't depressed anymore. I was still like very anxious about a lot of things, but I wasn't depressed, as in, or at least I wasn't like, what's that word like
Oh,
the thing where
anhedonia or anhedonic.
yeah,
Like you could like feeling, you could feel pleasure again. Like,
yeah, like I remember whenever I felt like kind of lost, I would often like start Googling things and be like, how do you feel like happy or like things like this. And I remember Googling like, I don't feel any joy or something like that. And it was like listed this condition. And I was like, is that me?
anhedonia.
Yeah. So I didn't feel like that joy from anything really. Like even for like, sit down and watch TV for like 20 minutes, I never felt like anything was like giving me joy. And then someday, I still had a lot of, like I said, anxiety, but like I could like, I felt like joy about things again. And I don't
Hmm.
know if I did anything or it just kind of happened like over time.
But it's good. That's very good. It's a good thing.
Yeah, so I don't know when this happened for you when I started talking to you, but I started looking into like, I was wondering how people dealt with like having to like build up this life because I felt like I had ignored a lot of things because I didn't care. And I was like, I feel like I don't have that many friends. And I don't have like a lot of things I'm doing. And I was like, I was like, how do other people deal with this? And then I thought, oh, like when people move to a new city, that must be like totally normal. Like everybody, they're in this new place and they don't know anyone. So I was like, how do they like deal with being in this new place? Not that I'm even in a new place, but I kind of felt like I was in a way. And one of the
Oh,
things they said was to schedule like a call with a friend like regularly. And I was like, I could do that with Josh.
Oh, that's so
Uh,
oh,
nice.
so I have like a calendar reminder still every week that's like call Josh or something.
I just
Often
want to say,
now,
by the way, oh, I'm just going to cut you off to say that's like one of my, I talking to you every week has been like awesome. Like,
yeah.
it's one
I
of
mean,
my favorite things.
for me, it's more. A lot of it's been like, oh my god, I'm having a panic attack. I need somebody to talk to.
I'm just having like a joyful day. Oh, it's Pierce. Hey.
I was
You're
like,
like,
"Oh,
I need to-"
Josh is like, I'm out for a run right now. And I'm like, oh, okay.
I feel like Josh is a good person to talk to because he's always like on. I feel like anytime I call Josh, I'm like, he doesn't mind. Like he'll never mind. Even if
I love it.
you know what I mean? He's like always happy to hear. So it's like it takes the pressure off from calling and being worried that you're annoying someone, right? Like or that you're like
Yeah.
interrupting someone. Because even if you are interrupting him, he's like, I'm running, but I can talk. And it's like, what the hell? Who does that?
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Making me feel a lot better than remembering how annoying I was in elementary school.
Well, we're trying to even it out, you know.
I don't know if maybe if you call people a lot, you don't feel this way, but I've felt forever, like even now, that like if somebody's calling me, then something's wrong.
Oh,
And or if I call someone else, like it's like why are you calling me? Like is it emergent? Like
that is
if I
yeah.
want to
That's
talk
our
to them, like,
generation. That's a normal thing. Yeah.
I have to be like, well, I don't have to do this, but I feel like, hey, do you want to chat? Like, and then I'll like set up, like almost maybe set up a meeting or be like, hey, let's chat at like 8 p.m. or something. And I'm like, oh,
Oh, Pierce, I honestly, I'll be driving around. I just like, cause I have like the Bluetooth headset. I just randomly call people throughout the day.
Yeah.
I like to do it. I just call them and go, hey, how's it going? Sometimes it'll be someone I haven't talked to in half a year. And they're just like, I wonder how many people must be thinking something is wrong when I call them. Yeah, well,
It
I would have
depends
just have
who's
a job
calling,
where I
'cause-
drove around all night, and that's what I did. I just called people while I was driving around to deliver food and stuff like that.
I remember that actually. I think that's some of our first conversations. I was like, why is Josh Lippman calling me? And then I was like, hello, and you're like, hi, I'm just calling to say hi. And I was like, oh, he just has a lot of energy. He just wants to talk. Same old Josh. I have 3 questions.
yeah.
Sorry, Pierce.
And
Sorry,
well, then
Pierce.
more I don't know, the past few years, if somebody was calling me, I was like, oh, like who's somebody died, like what's going on? And that never happened, but I always felt like, oh, okay, like what's going
So
on?
cause anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I just assumed like something bad was happening.
So I have a question for you then. Would you say that, so you basically from this experience, because all this stuff kind of hit you at once, you were hit with basically a first depression and then a whole lot of anxiety. Would you say almost like clinical anxiety?
I mean, I don't know what that means, but I guess so. I don't know what clinical
I guess I'd say
anxiety is.
clinical, like, I guess I'm just trying to differentiate between some people who like to throw around the word, I'm feeling anxious or I'm feeling some anxiety, but it sounds to me like it was a very serious anxiety.
Yeah, and I don't know if this stopped after I stopped being depressed or if this kept going for a long time. It probably kept going for a long time. Like everyone I would talk to who was older and I was like, maybe being friends with, sort of like, I would feel like, what's the point of being friends with them? Like they're gonna die before me. They're like X years older.
Oh.
I wouldn't say that to them, but I was like always thinking
That's
that.
what you
Like
felt.
I kept
But you
like,
had never thought that stuff before. That was never like you didn't see the
yeah,
the
I
world
never
through the
really,
lens of death until that's
yeah,
what
I
it seems like
never,
is like
yeah,
it just tainted not tainted, but it like affected everything. Suddenly everyone you looked at was someone who was going
Oh,
to
that
die.
person's gonna die.
Yeah.
yeah, because it was like I felt like I didn't have, I don't know, like a network of like friends and things like that. And so whenever I was like talking to people and sort of becoming close with them, I was like, okay, like what's the point of like having this friendship because they're older than me and they're gonna be gone. Especially because like I started going to synagogue a lot and like I'm like the youngest person there by like 30 years, give or take a few years maybe. And I'm like, what's the point of being here? Like all these people are gonna be gone. Like
You saw a lack of permanence all around you, basically. You saw what's the point if it's all gonna go away?
yeah, I've gone through a lot of different like, I don't know if phases is the right word, but like when you said permanence, it reminded me there was like maybe this will come back at some point and I'll get really anxious about it again. But a time where like I was like, oh my God, like nothing's permanent. Like how, and I was like reading Buddhism books and like they're just like, oh, nothing matters. Like everything comes and goes. And I was like, this isn't helping me.
It's weird because that can be either like anxiety inducing, like nothing matters, or it can be anxiety relieving in some ways, right? Because it's
Yeah,
like,
that's what's
it doesn't
interesting.
matter. So I can just do whatever because it's not in the end,
Yeah, that
go
seems to
ahead.
be what causes other people, what relieves other people of anxiety seems to be what caused you
I
anxiety.
mean, I would say it's like a lot of people want this certainty because that relieves anxiety, the certainty of knowing what's going to happen or that there's some permanence or there's,
Yeah.
whereas for
Is
others
it
it's
because you
like,
had? Is it
yeah,
because
go
you
ahead.
had this general belief? I'm sorry, I keep cutting up. Is it because you had this general belief beforehand that everything was just permanent, like they'd all be there forever? Or is it just a feeling
Oh yeah,
that you had?
that's a good question.
Yeah, I think I just felt like it would just be there forever. Or like things that weren't, I sort of just like rationalized, like, that didn't really matter. Like, I mean, a lot of this will probably sound kind of messed up, but like, I had one of my grandmother on my dad's side passed away like many years before my dad, and my grandfather on my mom's side passed away like within a year of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And both of those, I was like, like they're, I didn't really spend much time with them. Like, whatever. It doesn't really matter that much. Like, it sort of was like, I don't really need to worry about this because they are old and whatever. And like our dog died. And I think I was also like, uh, whatever, it's a dog. Like, I'm still fine. So I think I avoided a lot of those bigger long term thoughts
For a
about
while.
myself, at least.
Did you ever have those moments before your father passed away, or was it mainly after?
It was mainly after. Like
Yeah.
I was worried about myself mostly. Like
Mm.
I was like, oh, I better like be really healthy so I don't like get cancer or something like that. But I wasn't really worried about anyone else.
Does it? It sounds
Um,
like it was like a light switch just kind of
Yeah.
like went off in you, and suddenly it's like, oh, hello, death. You know,
my friend.
you know, yeah. Oh, darkness and hell. It's what it feels like, and actually just interacting with you from at least from my perspective when I started, really talking to you again, especially at this level, it seemed like this switch had gone off in you. I remember thinking, this is a totally new. This is like Pierce 2.0. Like there's all these there's almost too many new layers. There's so many layers that have just been added and all happened at once. And stuff that would happen for like other people maybe gradually over the course of their lives or many years all seem to have like the switch went off and all of these things kind of hit you at once. Is that how it kind of felt?
Yeah, I mean, I remember. I don't know how long I thought this for, but I kept thinking like, if I could just go back, like I would be happy. Like just go back to ignorance. Like that was totally fine. Like I was happy there. Uh, and then I kept thinking like, yeah, but I can't do that. Not that I like have the
Pandora's
choice
box
and
has
I'm
been
not going to
opened.
do it, but like that there is no choice. Like that's not an option. I was like, well, I guess I got to learn how to like live now.
That's really like really interesting because again from my perspective. Okay, so from my perspective, there was a lot of positives, right? Again, you could tell me how you felt it, but I remember thinking like, wow, Pierce is getting into all these, we're having these like great deep discussions, and you'll probably get into this in a bit, but you were trying out all these new things, yeah, like you're like, hey, I'm painting today. Oh, today I'm dancing. Today I'm, we started really diving into really, I guess, important subject matter and getting past the surface. And I thought that at least was a very good thing. But it sounds like on the other side of it is that came with all this anxiety, that's not so good.
Yeah, well, I think of it like on one hand, at the time, I was like, ugh, like couldn't I just stay like being ignorant? Like that was nice. That felt pretty good. But seemed like probably something that would just happen inevitably. Like can't really stay there forever. Like I know you
Mm.
mentioned like earlier that maybe there are some people who
Oh
do
yeah,
just like somehow live their whole life without actually having that change or whatever,
awakening. Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. I don't know if that's maybe it's possible. It feels pretty hard to do that, and you probably end
Mhm.
up in like a pretty crappy place because like if I just kept doing that, I probably would have not talked to anybody, like just keep to myself and just end up like. I mean, that's what I was afraid of. I was like, well, if I don't make friends or do anything, like everybody around me is just gonna be gone someday, and then I'll have like nothing left. Like that. That's what I was afraid of.
Mm.
Yeah.
So even though it is a negative, it's a negative feeling, obviously, to have gone through all of that. But do you think in a way it has improved your life to be, I know you say it would be nice to go back to that ignorance, but would it be nice not to have like the depth of friendships? And I mean, it's fine either way. I'm just curious. Like,
I mean, like I don't feel like it was sustainable anyway, but I don't know. It is sort
yeah,
of like I do find this nice feeling from it because like if you have this feeling of like anxiety all the time or like depression even, and you're like, I know that this is like the sort of like right thing to do. You're like, but this kind of sucks like feeling this way. So if I have to give up like, having like true good friendships and I could feel pretty good, then that seems appealing in a way.
so you'd
Oh,
rather
it's
feel
because
like decent than to feel
it
like good, but also super bad.
no,
Yeah.
but it's
It's
because it
like,
comes with all this things. For you, it came with all this anxiety. That's the kind of scary part, right? Like some people, this happens and there's this like awakening, maybe let's say, and they start to see, but it doesn't come with this like terrorizing depression or anxiety, right? And that's so to you, it's those two are linked, right?
Yeah, well, it's work. Like it takes effort to like do all this stuff.
Right, right. And hopefully, but
But
what are some of the things like I've noticed from you that you started looking into? Okay, what is one of the things we've talked about in the past was purpose. You started looking, were you searching for purpose or whether you even needed a purpose or things like that?
yeah, so I've done one of the first things I did that I felt like eased my thoughts a bit, at least about death, and I don't really think about it at all now. Is I studied this book with somebody from the Jewish community here, and it's like I don't know how to explain it, but it's like a Jewish philosophy book about it tries to explain like how can we exist with God if God is the universe, like how can we be separate if God is everywhere, something like that.
yeah.
And I don't know, it's hard to explain, but
What's the
anyway,
name of it? Or,
it's called the Tanya. It was really hard to understand, but like I got something good out of it. I felt like it some of it aligned with like things I already thought, and I was like, yeah, that kind of makes it. Wasn't like, oh, now like this is I like totally like trust this and this is the truth and like now I can rest easy because I know everything's taken care of. Like it wasn't like that, but it was like, oh, here's something that kind of makes sense to me. Okay, I feel like I've done enough like searching for this. Like I feel satisfied. I don't need to think about this anymore, or at least for now. So that took like we would study for half an hour every week for. I'm still doing it with him, but we study other stuff now.
Did it ease you at all
oh,
to like just the idea that other people are confronted with this, like even if that you don't have the answers necessarily, you understand that other people are searching and you're all kind of searching together. Does it ease you knowing that you're not alone in this concern?
I know that's like a common thing, but it didn't. And I would always like create. I don't know if this is probably not true, but I would always come up with reasons like, yeah, but like they have a different situation and it's not so bad for them, or like it's not the same as me. So I never really felt like, oh yeah, we're all like going through the same thing, even though we probably are. But I never really
I mean,
felt
everyone
like,
is unique. Everyone's unique, different. They have
yeah, but
different
I know what
perception
you
and
mean. Like you could
experience.
you could feel like connection like with people and be like, oh, we're all going through the same thing. We're all in it together. I didn't really feel that,
Hmm.
but I can imagine that people do feel that.
So you felt kind of alone in that, in your thoughts there.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that, like, because like I was Googling stuff, like searching for information, because I was like, well, obviously people have dealt with this, so there must be like information about this. So it wasn't like I thought, oh, I'm the only one who has experienced this, but I guess I just never felt like solace in other people experiencing the same thing. Like it didn't comfort me knowing that.
Yeah. It's interesting you were talking about this, like, you know how you feel sometimes like, oh, this is kind of messed up that I thought this or I thought that. I think we all kind of have things where we feel like it's messed up, but it's probably a lot more natural than we think. We get when we're confronted with these, when we're confronted with death, we all respond. I think it's not even just unique in how we respond to death, but to death, it's responding to death at a certain time in our lives, or to a specific person, or whether it's a dog, or you know what I mean, or how close we were or not. I remember for me, for example, after my mom's passing, I remember the day after, I thought to myself, I called it my day of thinking. It was just like an entire day that went, I feel like, was lost to me, just figuring everything out in my head. I was just like, the whole day I was trying to, and the way my brain works is I just wanted to get ahead of everything. So I remember thinking, I need to, okay, what's going to happen tomorrow? What's going to happen the next day? How am I going to respond to people when they ask me this? What am I going, it started to try to like a chess game or something, like map it all out, which you can't do. But that was like comforting to me and trying to like having a mental plan to deal with it. But I remember even to this day, like I remember like standing in the shower. It's gonna sound again messed up, but like standing in the shower and just like imagining the people I love and know, imagining what happens if they die. And then everything I would do and how I would respond, and what I would do in those situations. In a sense, like I wanted to be ready for it if it were to happen. And yet I knew, I kind of knew internally as well, like you can't be ready for it. No matter how hard you try to be ready for it. I remember, I think I mentioned before, my dad had he's got cancer still to this day. He's still battling cancer. And so, of course, like all the time, I'm thinking about when's that day going to come? What am I going to do? Thinking I could get ahead of it. And then I remember like a friend from back at home calling me one day and telling me, "Hey, I've got some news, and it's not good news. Are you sitting down?" And immediately, I like started to have a panic attack. I'm like, "Oh, he's going to tell me my dad's dead. That's what he's going to tell me." And I like my heart like almost like was like gonna pop out of my chest. I remember this. And then he actually told me, this is weird. He told me a friend of mine actually had died, which is still horrible. It's a whole other thing, but basically, we won't get into that right now. And that was also really bad. But I just remember thinking, wow, all of this preparation I had in my mind didn't do anything for me. I immediately, there's nothing I could do. So but yet I still do that. My brain wants to have this mental plan in any given situation. I don't know if you can relate to that at all, but I kind of go the other direction. Instead of not wanting to think about it, I think about it too much.
I kind of I don't know if I'd say forgot, but it wasn't on top of mind until you started explaining it. And you were like, when you were leading into explaining that, you're like, yeah, this was like kind of messed up. I was thinking about this and these people dying and like how I could prepare for it. And I was like, oh, I did that like all the time. I was like, all right, how can I make it okay that if I come to that situation that like my life is still okay? And I would be like, well, I'll like be in this place at that time and it'll be okay because I'll have like I was like, I need to know that I'll be okay when that happens. And then eventually I was like, well, I think it was just something that I don't know, like probably just got tired of. Like it just like it never got me anywhere. And I think eventually it just kind of somewhere inside me, I guess I realized like this is useless, and I just stopped doing it. So I don't know. I don't really do that now, or haven't in a while. But I did do that a
probably
lot.
Not always a good thing.
Can I?
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I didn't think I'd have anything to say on this, but actually, I've been doing that all the time. But I don't have any good reason to, other than that it's just the way I am. Like I will think about. I don't know, if I don't see someone that often, every time I see them or I say goodbye to them, I think maybe this is the last time I'll see them. And I also like imagine each like important person in my life dying and what, like how I would feel. It's like rehearsing. It doesn't make sense. It's not useful, but I mean, I think I've always kind of, I don't know about always, but for as long as I can remember, that has been a normal thing. I mean, to be fair, my parents would also make jokes if I was or they didn't make it as a joke, but they would say like, I mean, if I ever was rude to my mom, she'd be like, someday you're going to miss me. And I'd be like, maybe,
Yeah,
like as in I'm
famous
going to
mother
die
thing.
and you're going to miss me,
Yeah.
which is a very Jewish joke to make.
Well-
But I think I always had like the idea of, I mean, it doesn't help though. It never helps. It doesn't matter when something happens. You're not like, oh, good, I can go through all that stuff I rehearsed. It's like, it
you know,
does
it's a
nothing.
famous like Jewish kind of, it's like, I feel like it's like built into our people, you know, with like the Holocaust and everything.
Yeah.
Mortality is the idea of mortality is really baked into our, I feel like our like consciousness or collective consciousness. You know, the idea that, you know, our people, wherever they went, were persecuted and killed and genocided and, you know, all that stuff. And we're always being taught about how that happened. And I feel like
Yeah.
it's, in a sense, you know, whether it's personally happening or not, there's a little bit of that going on. You know, we're always, but on the other hand, I find like a positive side to thinking about mortality in that way is that you, at least I would hope you would treasure what you have a lot more. You know, you wouldn't, I have a fear of wasting a day. I can't stand the idea of wasting my day in some way, whatever that might be, or what is considered wasting your day, right? But it's all perception, right? But the idea that you say like, you know, this might be the last time that I see this friend, like, oh my God, you know, when you think about that, that's why to me, you know, I prioritize, you know, friendship so much like that. You know, you never know when it'll be the last time you see someone. So you really need to, you know what I mean? Every one of these moments matters so much more once you
It's funny
understand that,
because
once you have that sense of mortality.
it's funny though, because you have a lot of friends, and I really specifically am like, do I want to spend my time? I understand completely the idea of not wasting time, and I've always had that. Like anytime I'm doing anything, I'm like, is this a waste of time or not? Like even I played video games for a bit, and I was like, I'm wasting my life. I can't do this. So I mean it's fun, but it's also depends. It depends what. But oh, you're saying like you always want to talk to your friends. I have a lot of people where I'm like, I'm gonna die soon. I don't need to. Maybe I don't want to be using my energy on these people when I can be talking to these people. You know, so that's
Well, either way, it leads to you
curated
figuring out what
friendships.
your
But yes,
priorities are.
sorry, yeah, it's true. It does. It has guided priorities. So
One way or another. I mean, look at
Yeah.
the alternative of it. Having a lot of friends and spending time with everybody on that, you know, that's great. But the more you, there's kind of that fear, the more you attach yourself to, the more you have to lose.
I mean, it's
You
gonna
know?
suck. There's nothing that's gonna stop
Yeah.
any of that from sucking. It's just it's gonna.
I mean, none of
Anyways.
us have figured it out, I guess I would say, you know, as you're talking about this,
Nobody
Pierce,
in
it's
the
like,
world.
I'm
Yeah.
thinking like, do I have any of these answers? And I don't.
Yeah, I
I
was
just
thinking
have
that
what
too. I was like,
works
can
for
we
me,
help?
you know?
No, I can't.
But you know what? I
Sorry.
feel like we can help. The only way I can help is like this, like talking to each other, being here, you know, us all questioning it together.
Yeah,
I
I'm
feel like that's,
still. I don't think I. Maybe you don't perfectly live this, but the way you described, like Josh, that you're like, oh, I only have so much time, so I'm going to use it like on whatever like I feel really passionate about or something. I'm still like not at that point. Like I'm still like, okay, like kind of like want to get through today and like
oh, of course.
the like idea of like, oh, I only have so much time and I want to use it wisely. I'm like, I don't really want to think about that. I only have so much time right now. So, but I
Well,
kind of want to in a way. Like I want to.
no, but it sounds to me like it's like telling, to me, it's like telling somebody that to somebody who's like, if they're ill in the hospital with something, and you're like, hey, you can't waste any single day. And it's like, I just need to get better right
Yeah.
now. You know, I need to, I'm not saying you're like this ill person in the
Yeah.
hospital, but there's a sense of like, you need to focus on one or two things right now. On maybe on, it sounds like that's where you're at a little bit mentally, and telling you like, hey, like, don't waste your day is really, would be really insensitive.
No, it's not that. I want to like I think it's good to, I don't know how to say this. You recognize that you have a limited time, but you don't obsess over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes
Yeah,
sense.
no, I think that makes total sense.
Yeah, for sure.
But
Yeah.
I'm not there. It seems like, well, the way you describe it, it sounds like you are there. Like you're,
Well, I don't know about again, for me, I have a certain, I feel like I know what I want to do in life. You know, I know what my passions are. I want to make movies, and I want to make friends, and you know, I want to create these stories and get them out there. And I have so many stories, and how am I going to get all these stories made before I die? You know, and then on a more somber note, I want my dad to see this stuff happen. You know, and that it's not just my time. I feel like my dad could be running out of time. You know, to see that happen, and you know, my mentors and things like that. And that stuff, that sense of mortality, not just my own, but the people around me, and my driving purpose, you know, that's what pushes me forward, to feel like I don't want to waste time. And to be honest, I fall into depression a little bit when I feel like I'm not being productive because of that, because I put so much weight on that, for better or worse, right?
Yeah, that kind of pressure isn't necessarily helpful all the time.
So you think that the pressure is not helpful sometimes, and I agree. It is definitely not helpful at times. Other times when I need to get things done, it's very helpful,
Well,
right?
it's
If it's
exactly
like
what Pierce said. If you
you
can
know,
get to a point where you're aware of it, but you're not obsessing over it, that's perfect. Because then you're like, I know that I have these things to do, and every day counts, but I don't have to. Yeah.
So if you're sharing, where are you right now in this journey? Do you feel like?
I think like what you're talking about is my goal, I guess, in the sense that you can move forward
Sorry,
either
let me
without.
rephrase then. Yeah, let me rephrase. So where are you in this journey of, like, I guess I'm looking at it as a journey that kind of started for you after your father passing, right? And something happened, that switch turned on, right? And it sounds to me, as you're explaining all this, that you've been going through these, you know, you've been dealing with all these questions, you know, searching for certain answers, dealing with depression at times, anxiety at times. I'm just wondering, of course, when we say journey, it's not like, you know, where you're going to get it a certain at a certain time, but just like, what are you dealing with maybe right now? Like, how do you feel lately, I guess?
I mean, so maybe this is like totally normal for people going through stuff like this, but I kind of have like, let's say like a normal level, and then sometimes I go through like a downturn, I guess, whatever you want to call it, a crash, I guess. It's usually
Mm-hmm.
like I get stuck on some idea or like obsessed with something, like, oh my god, if I don't do this thing soon, like I'm not gonna have any friends, or like I need to get working on this, like moving somewhere, if I'm gonna like move to another city or things like that. So I think like a few weeks ago I had one, and I was just like, I don't know what to do. Like nothing is good, and it can never be good. And so I've kind of like, every time I have an experience like that, I try to find some, like, not an answer, but like some direction. So
Mm,
I have a new direction, I guess. So lately it's been like, the best way I could describe it is what you're talking about with valuing the time that you have. It's
mm-hmm.
basically the advice that I said, but I'm not able to do, which is like, you're aware of it, but you're not obsessed about it.
Right.
I'm
So that's like a new
generally
direction.
like, yeah, like I'm generally either like not thinking about it at all, or I'm obsessed about it. I'm trying to get that balance, but
Mm-hmm.
it's difficult. It's also all this stuff is very weird because you're sort of like trying to teach yourself to think differently.
Yeah.
So
It's
it's
like
almost
affecting
like,
your brain wiring, right? Like, your brain was
yeah,
wired a certain way for so much of your life.
Yeah.
it's almost like you're trying to brainwash yourself.
Have
And that gets
you?
harder to do as you get older, right? Because our brains kind of like, we're like
Well,
Play-Doh when you're younger, and then it just
Yeah.
gets more cemented, and it gets much harder to change our brain. I'm a neuroscience major, so this is like
but
everything I studied.
when you're younger though, you wouldn't think to like do this though. Like maybe somebody else would
Mm.
influence you that way, but doing it to yourself is, I don't know. I never
Well,
thought of it like that.
you might if sometimes if you get hit with
If
these
you got pushed,
experiences, I
yeah,
guess, when you're
maybe.
younger. right? But you might is the key.
Have you found like a thing, Pierce, that you find as like a good, I don't want to say purpose, but something that kind of adds value in a way? Like, I mean, Pierce or Josh was talking about filmmaking. Have you kind of started thinking about that? Not that that has to be the thing, but sometimes I think that's a lot of people's go-tos, right? So I wonder if you have
A
thought about
creative
anything like
outlet.
that, a creative outlet or some, I don't know,
Like I have
something that
I
feels
have
meaningful. Yeah.
maybe outlets and stuff, but they're not
Yeah.
like my life's purpose.
Hmm.
So I don't really feel like I have a purpose right now. I mean, not that I'm like
And that's okay.
No, I mean,
that-
that's no, I think that's the first step to finding one is to be like, I don't have
Well,
one right
can
now.
I say something? I kind of find it, I think I might have said this to you before, but I find it amazing to me. Like you're kind of this, as we're getting older and you do find your purpose and all that, that's okay, that's great. You know exactly what you want to do and you don't want to waste your time. I'm saying you, but the hypothetical you, basically me. But there's something to be said about having such an open mind and being kind of this blank slate in a way where you're just like open to finding that purpose or
Yeah.
finding what it is or finding your direction. Like in talking to you, you've been telling me about how you've just basically been exploring. Like, yeah, today I tried painting, today I tried dancing. I remember, again, if I'm trying to remember the Pierce of high school and elementary school telling me this, and I can't, it doesn't even, I don't
He's
mean any
dead.
offense by it, it's just, oh man, a lot of metaphor in that. Anyway, that kind of blank slate aspect to it is really special in a way too, because there's a part of me that's almost envious of that, where I'm like, wow, the world is his oyster right now. Like he could go anywhere, he could do anything. Like his limitless
Yeah.
direction,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
know
that's a
it.
good way.
I know it sounds nice, and maybe it would be for you, but for me, like I always really liked routines and like things being kind of stable. So like doing all these things has been like, it's not like it's bad all the time or anything. And like I might be like, oh, I really like this thing, and I never would have thought about trying it before. But it's not like it's not all like fun.
You
For
feel
me.
pushed when you don't want to be pushed, basically.
Well, and I'm pushing myself because like there's nobody's forcing me to do anything. I could just like sit here all day and do nothing, and nobody's gonna stop me. But I would then be like, well, if I don't do anything, then nothing's gonna change. So
Right.
yeah. So
Well, I admire you for that a lot, Pierce.
like
And then it's the fact that it's harder for you in that way, that you're pushing yourself despite the fact that you don't want to be, but you feel like you need to. That takes a lot of, I guess, it takes a lot of courage, first of all, but it takes a lot of effort to do that. And self-will, what's the word I'm looking for? Willpower.
Yeah.
Sure. I guess the first, like for me at least, big thing I did was like start joining like sport leagues. So
Cool.
I started playing different sports, like stuff I played volleyball for the first time a couple of years ago.
Huh.
And I was like, I don't know, like I guess I'll join just so I can like socialize. But I've never played this, and I don't know. I don't want to get injured. Like I only play tennis, and like I feel like pretty safe. Like there's no contact or anything. Like not that volleyball's like serious contact or anything, but anyway,
Intense volleyball.
I played it for like the season. I was like, this is like really fun. Like I really like this.
Is COVID what got in the way of that?
Kind of. In February, I went to Montreal, which also,
No way.
I'm not going to explain this too much, but I got kind of scared of flying at one point, and then like I didn't want to fly anymore. I still flew.
I remember you telling me you didn't ever want to fly.
Yeah, I was
You
like,
didn't
I
like
don't
flying.
want. I hate this. Like this is horrible. But like I lived in Calgary, so I had to keep flying if I wanted to visit. Anyway, I hadn't flown since I had moved back. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna fly to Montreal. Like, oh no, maybe I'm gonna have a panic attack. But actually, it was fine. I mean, I still don't like
Things
flying,
are
but it was fine.
That's a positive change.
Yeah. So anyway, while I went there, I saw my cousin who was living there at university there at the time. Davida. So anyway,
She's wonderful.
she told me she was gonna meet me for dinner, and she's like, yeah, but like, I can't meet you till later because I'm doing this like dance class. And I was like, oh, like, can I come? She's like, I guess, like, why not? And I was like, okay, I've never done this before. And she's like, oh no, it's totally fine. like came to
Wait,
this
just a second.
class.
Aya, are you listening to this? This is the Pierce that we knew.
Yeah, no,
Is this blowing your
I'm trying
mind?
I'm trying to reconcile the Pierce that I know with
The one that said, the one that didn't want to like hang, when we were in high school, didn't want to go eat and anywhere else but where we were eating or see anybody else, is like, can I come to your dance?
Yeah.
What kind of dance was this?
I think it was called
Please do ballet.
Afrofusion.
What was it?
Afrofusion.
I think that's
Whoa.
what it was called. I'm still not
Wow.
really sure what I did, but
I saw a video. I saw a video.
I have a
You
video.
showed me
Yeah,
a
there's
video
still a
of this
video
at
of
one
it.
point.
What?
I
Oh,
did
that's
pretty good.
awesome.
I thought it was pretty good. The video
It was
that was
good.
recorded was pretty good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I just like that
Basically,
you're like, I'm still not sure exactly what I did, but yeah, that
like
sounds like
I thought like I don't know, maybe some of them are like this, but I thought they were more just like I don't even know, like some kind of fun, like just dance around, whatever. Like, but this was like, okay, we're gonna like teach you this like dance routine, and you're gonna learn it in this hour class, and at the end of the class, like we're gonna do it. So they would be like, okay, here's like 1, 2, 3, 4 steps, like do these things, and then we would repeat it and practice it, and it was like, well, one, it was like my chest was like on fire, like I was sweating like crazy, but I was basically just like, I'm, as long as it's not dangerous, like I will try to do other things and just see if it does something to my brain, basically. So I did that, and then I was like visiting family there, and there happened to be like, I don't remember, like a friend of theirs is like a dance instructor, maybe. She's like, oh, well, if you're interested, like you should try, what did I do? Not tango, not
like salsa.
salsa, yeah, salsa.
Oh, salsa. I used to go salsa dancing.
Yeah, she's like, oh, you should do salsa, like it's really easy, like that's the easiest one. And I was like, oh, okay, like I'll do like salsa class. And like this was like right before COVID, so it got canceled at some point, but I did it for a few weeks. And I was like, this is like really hard for me. Like I was like,
I
this
was
is not
gonna
easy at all.
say none of the. I
Salsa's
don't think
not
any.
easy. I don't think.
There,
I
yeah,
wouldn't
it's
use
not
that
easy.
terminology.
It might be the easiest like of those. It might seem like the easiest, but I still don't consider.
And
it. Not that
I felt
I'm
like
not an expert, but yeah.
I felt like super uncomfortable because I'm like, some people were there with their partner to dance with, like they brought their wife or girlfriend or boyfriend, whatever. And I was just, and other of us were there with just by yourself. And I was like, I don't feel confident in what I'm doing. And like when you're leading, you have to like give certain signals to like do certain moves. And I'm just like, I can't keep this all in my head. Like slow down. Like, and I'd feel bad like if I wasn't doing the right thing. And then sometimes I was like, I'm doing the right thing and they're screwing it up. And one time I was there where there was somebody who I think was like at a higher level, and she was dancing with me, and I was like, I like really don't know what I'm doing. Like, she's like, you need to lead, and I'm like, I don't know how to. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I still did it, but it was like, it was very uncomfortable.
And
I
good
think
for
it's
you for
awesome.
pushing through that. That's amazing because
Yeah.
that stuff's hard, and like I feel like dance is hard enough, but then to have someone else's like having to coordinate with someone else as well is a whole other pressure. So like good
Yeah,
for
I
you
start
for doing that. Yeah.
before actually they, at least in this class, before they got you with a partner, everyone was just on their own, and they're like teaching you some basic steps. And I was like, oh, I can do this. Like I'm learning, like I get it. And then once the partner stuff started, I was like, this is like,
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening anymore. So yeah, I did that. That was right before COVID. And then COVID was just like, when COVID started, I was partially like really freaked out. I was like, I'm gonna be by myself. Like, this is not good. Like, I was trying to like get out as much as I could to be with other people, and I was like, if I'm stuck by myself, like I'm gonna die. Like, this is terrible. Like, not like I'm actually gonna die, but like it was really worrying me.
This is like a 180 from where you used to be. It used to be, I don't want to go out and see anybody. That's gonna like kill me. And now it's like, oh my God, I can't just stay at home by myself. That's gonna kill me.
Yeah. So neither way is really great. Probably. But
not that neat.
I also had the thought, maybe after I calmed down a little bit, it's like, maybe this will be like really good. Like I will use this time to like evolve, and I'll like, after this is over, I'll be like totally in control, and like everything's gonna be good. And then like months went by, and I'm like, this is still really hard, but like I still feel like it's been pretty. I don't know what would have happened if I wasn't in COVID, but I feel like it's been a good experience in some ways, just
good.
to like learn how to be alone again, I guess.
Yeah, this is I mean, this has been I mean, that's a whole other thing, but the COVID experience is, we're all kind of learning that in a sense, right? Learning how to be alone, either just in a way that we're not used to anymore, right?
Yeah, so that's why I, like, for example, started painting, because I was like, I feel kind of like, I don't know how to explain this feeling, but the best way I can describe it is if you have ever sat around, like, watch TV all day, and you just get this kind of feeling like, I just like did nothing, like this doesn't feel good.
I call that wasting your I mean, no, for
like,
me, I'm a movie maker, so watching TV is actually education.
Okay,
but...
Josh, come on.
I can
It's
justify
actually
it.
a study in
Yeah. I need to watch
analyzing the
things.
characters.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I had that feeling, and I was like, ugh, like I don't feel good. And then I think I called Josh one week, and he's like, well, you need to do something creative. And I was like, oh, creative, like maybe I'll write or maybe I'll paint. And I still have on my sort of backlog, I guess, to like try writing at some point. I don't know what I would even write, but painting was way easier in a way, because you like literally don't have to think. Like,
yeah.
with writing, at least I have to like form words. Like I can't just mash on the keyboard and be like, oh yeah, that's a good, there's some letters there.
I mean, painting
Isn't
is
that how you write,
relaxing
Aya?
in a way too.
It
Oh
is
yeah,
relaxing.
that's what I do. I don't know what
That's how you
anyone else
did your PhD. That's how you
I
finished
just
your
close my
PhD, right?
eyes and I actually just throw my pen at the keyboard and hope that it hits enough letters. And sometimes I just let the cat walk across the keyboard back and forth.
And that's how she
And then I'm
became
like,
Dr. Ishai.
those are words. Yeah.
It's that
My
easy.
cat wrote half my thesis. Yeah. I kept asking her to. In all seriousness, I would sit there and I'd be like, oh my God, can you please write this for me? I hate this so much. But yeah, no, writing can be fun, but it can also be terrible. Don't write a thesis. Just write something you like. But no, painting is really relaxing. I find, like, once you get into it, I love doing it. I'm not any good, but I don't care. It's nice. It's just, you go into your own little world, listen to music.
It's subjective. There's no such thing as not being good when it comes to painting.
I
There's
mean, I'm
paintings
not
out there that are
skilled
a
at it.
square and a circle, and
Okay.
you know.
Right. No, I mean, I'm not skilled or particularly creative, but I love, like, once I'm doing it, it's fun. So I don't know.
I found it funny actually how many compliments I've gotten from painting, and I'm like, do they see like what I did, or like, or are they
I
like,
really
just
like what you
nice?
paint. You painted me that painting for my birthday. I loved it, Piers.
Do they
Like,
see what I
does it
did?
look? Is it
But
photorealistic?
that
No,
was
it's not
like,
supposed to be.
but I felt like that was more of a like emotional connection, if you know what I mean. It wasn't like, hey, I just painted this thing. It has no connection to you.
Right.
Look at it, and they're like, wow, like that's really great. And I'm like, are you just being nice to me, or like, do you really think it's great? Am I? And then I'm like, am I actually like a like painting savant? Like, have I missed out this whole time?
It's been just wasting away there. Yeah, you could have been.
Yeah,
Piers, you're a painting savant.
You might be.
need to
I don't know. I
this.
haven't seen
who
anything.
knows? They're
I
right
see
there.
some stuff behind you. Oh, actually,
Here's what I can.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
I like
Look at that.
the one on the left. I've been looking at, or it's on my left. I've been looking at the whole time with the it's like the red flowers, sort of.
Yeah,
The red plant.
yeah.
I like that one.
The two plants. Nobody can see this listening, but I drew two plants, and they're both like actual.
Oh right, yeah.
That's another thing, actually. I never in my life have put anything on my walls anywhere I've lived. Like no pictures, no like art, like nothing.
Huh.
And I was like, this past couple of years have been like, I guess I like should have something. And since I started painting, I was like, oh, like I'll like put this on my wall. Like I'll have my stuff on
It's
the
amazing.
wall.
Yeah.
And it's way cheaper. And
Yeah.
I think I've noticed every painting you've done has been getting like I like from the very first one you did was good, but like they're getting better. Each one that you're doing is like getting more and more detailed.
That pink.
That's my favorite.
Yeah,
that's one I like. Yeah.
That was my first one.
That was?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird. I like that one. I mean, I couldn't see.
I mean, technically,
but I do really like it.
I looked
Is
up a
that
video
watercolor?
how to. Yeah, it's watercolor. I stopped doing
watercolor.
watercolor.
When are you going to start a YouTube channel, painting with Piers?
I really wanted to like. I wanted to do all that stuff years ago, but then I was like, nobody's watching. Like,
no, you gotta do it.
You don't do it for you. Got to do it for you, and then
I was like, I
And-
really wanted, like, this was years ago, but I was like, I want to be like famous and like have all these followers, and I was like, that's not gonna happen. Like, what's the point?
I mean, don't do it to be
You never
famous.
know.
Do it because you like it. I mean, we're doing this because we like it, and people have listened. I mean, we're not famous, but people have listened, which is weird. But
Yeah, it's true.
I mean,
People are actually listening to this podcast.
people are listening right now.
That's true.
But we shouldn't tell our guests that. For me,
Yeah, we
that's
should
very
now. Yeah,
anxiety
that's very anxiety
triggering.
inducing.
I might be
Every time
listening to myself.
You might be listening. Oh, you will definitely. Yeah.
I've listened to
definitely-
every episode so far, so.
Aw.
Oh, here.
What?
And every episode, I'm like, oh no, I don't agree with what they're saying.
Oh,
I
yeah,
can't argue
tell
with
us.
them.
You can
I don't
argue with us
remember-
now.
I don't
This is
remember
your
offhand,
chance.
but
Oh, you gotta write notes next time.
We're gonna
and-
bring you on to argue with us next time to talk about how you agree or disagree with our introversion extroversion talk.
the other thing was that I started. Basically, somebody was telling me, like, you should, even if you're not necessarily planning to be where you are forever, you should try and make it like your home.
Mm-hmm.
So, like,
That's good.
they're like, you should have like paintings, and so another guy in the community here, Robert Brewer, he's got hundreds of plants at his house, and I was like, oh, I guess I can just ask him, like, he can help me with this. And I came over one day, like, pointing out all his plants, and he's like, which ones do you like? Like, I'll just give them to you. And I was like, oh,
Oh,
okay. So he gave me like 6 or 7 plants,
wow.
and like that thing, both of these.
Oh, the green one?
Yeah,
That's
both of
pretty
those like
amazing.
that I painted were things that he gave me.
Oh,
And he's also like very into art and stuff like that. But the plants I got from him, so both of those were things I like never thought I would do, and
Yeah.
also felt like, I remember, like, what's the point? Like, that's not going to change my life. Like, why am I doing this? And it's not like I got this plant and now like everything's great, but like most mornings I get up and like look at the plants and just feel kind of like, oh, cool, like I have this thing that's growing, and then I go on with my day.
oh.
Yeah, that's
That's
so
like,
nice. I
and you
mean,
made
those are the
it adds
things.
to a home.
Yeah. And,
I mean, those are the little things that add up, right? You're saying like it's not going to change your life. I mean, the one little, maybe it won't, but seeing that plant every day adds
Adding it all
up.
together too. You
Yeah.
know? Like it's any one of these things, you're basically building a home and a life. Like you're building up, because you're exploring so much and you're putting that out all around you. All these things that you're exploring are becoming part of you, right?
Yeah, well,
This is part of you and your experience now.
I don't know if you probably, no offense, Josh, you probably think about this less, but about like owning your own home.
Oh yeah,
House.
much less.
Uh,
I get to live in this old Victorian mansion and just pretend that I own it. So
yeah, but what I was gonna say is that I had this thought, like, I kind of want a home because I don't have enough window space here for my plants, and I want to get more plants, but I don't have any space to put them. And that was like the only reason I was like, oh, I need some more space. And I never thought about having space before because I thought, like, who cares? I have room for like my computer and like my bed. Like, I don't really need more space. I mean, I wouldn't mind, but I don't really need it.
and
Yeah,
I love hearing your thought process. It's amazing.
that's hilarious. Also, because windows are good for humans too.
Yeah. I,
No, seriously, I was in a basement
Sunlight.
for a while, and there was a difference when I when I was staying in the basement versus when I went up. Like I was in my parents' place, and they were like it's affecting your sleep, and it was actually not having sunlight in all the time. I know I joke like humans need sunlight too, but it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm glad that you have plants that kind of
Yeah.
pushed you there. Yeah.
the other big thing that I started doing, which will also probably sound weird, especially for you guys, because I'm guessing, read a lot of books.
Actually, I don't. I
Josh
read
doesn't.
a lot more. I don't. I need to read more books.
Since I graduated high school, I didn't read any books, like, ever. And even in high school or like before that, I never read for pleasure. I was just like, this is like stupid. Like, why? I'm like, I could watch a show and there's like audio and video. Like, I'm like taking away, like, this is and when I would read, I'd feel like really like I needed to be doing something else. I'm like, I'm only like looking, like I'm not, somehow it just never, I never wanted to do it. Then like a couple of years ago, I went through like lots of self-help books. like listening to them, and then I bought some like physical books and like read those. And then for my birthday last year, my mom got me a Kindle because she knew I had started reading.
Nice.
And I've just been like reading like every night pretty much since like, I don't know, like a year ago. I don't read like a lot, but like I read before bed every night now.
That's wonderful.
That's a lot.
That makes me
And,
so
like,
happy.
Before
Yeah.
that, I would like never. It's like for me, it's like I'm like, oh, I'm so efficient. Like this is gonna help me fall asleep, and I'm doing something.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
It's a good wind down. Reading in bed is the best
Yeah.
time to read. Yeah. I do like 90% of my reading before I go to sleep. So I can relate.
So I realize that this feels like a journey. Like we've gone from listening to how we all were as children, right? And it's kind of the point of this podcast, right? To see how we are now as adults. And I just want to say that I really value and appreciate being your friends, your adulthood friends. And I don't know about you, Pierce, but to me, it's just been something that we're talking about mortality. That is one of the things that when I got hit with that self-awareness, I realized how significant friendships were. I always kind of wanted friends. We all want friends, but I really moved that to the top of the list and realized that it's important to have, if you're having experiences, it's important to have people to share them with. Whether you're introverted or extroverted, or whether you have to go out or not to do it, just to have that support system in your life. And again, I can't speak for you, but I just know when you reached out to start talking with me again, after what you went through, it was just, I was really, really happy to reconnect with you and become friends all over again, as adults and as we are today.
yeah, I mean, if anyone listening wants to be my friend,
Oh.
applications are open.
Are you accepting applications right now?
applications?
Yeah, my standards are
What are
very
the-
low, so
What are the requirements?
you can.
Just that his standards are low. That's good.
Yeah,
But like, I'm glad that you and Pierce now finally get to know each other as adults. And
Yeah.
I don't know about you. Do you think this is a good way to do that?
it's our way.
It's a way.
A way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
probably super awkward, but I'm glad that we're all
No,
like talking again.
I mean, I already said that I wanted more friends, so
Yeah.
I'm
Now we're
taking it.
friends.
Yes.
Oh, we're now
Yeah.
adulthood friends. We're officially adulthood friends.
We're
here.
adulthood friends.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll add one to my tally.
Yeah, add one. Thank you so much for coming on, Pierce. You were
Thank you,
our
Pierce.
first guest ever.
You're
That's
welcome.
exciting stuff.
Hopefully
And
first of many.
first of oh well, yeah, we'll see. I guess. Yeah,
Hopefully, we'll see. Yeah.
our first and only
like
guest.
we- No, we couldn't have hoped for a better first guest. Thank you so
Yeah,
much, Pierce.
yeah. It was.
And I'm sorry, I guess it was a tough topic and stuff to talk about, but I know you definitely have some really valuable insights. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing with us.
Yeah.
And this has been another episode of Adulthood Friends. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. And also, just I guess, I have to do this thing where I remind everybody.
Well, you don't have to, but
No, I
do
do
you want
now.
me to do it? I guess
do
I
it.
can do it.
No, I'll do it. I'll do it with all that, Josh energy that
Yeah, do it the Josh
you love me
energy.
for. If
Well-
you guys could follow us on Facebook. We have a Facebook page. And we also have this podcast on Apple, Google, Spotify, all the platforms really. So, subscribe, rate us on there if you can. And it would be much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.